So what I would like to say, I would like to show you, I would like to split this presentation to two parts. The first part will be dedicated for tooling, and during this time I would like to show you how advanced tool we have currently which support our development. And on the second part, I would like to show you that, okay, we can write pure JavaScript code using design patterns which we are using in all other languages without the external frameworks. We just can use JavaScript semantics and do nice job. And I would like to start from the clean code, because this is a presentation about clean code, but not talking about well-known rules like namings, etc., which every developer know even when he get up at 4 a.m. But I would like to focus on the comments and environment, general nodes and tests, because sometimes we forgot that in that cases, in that areas, we can apply clean code rules too. So start, but this is very short time, several minutes, just to remind you. What we can do with comments? We should remember that in comments we should keep only appropriate information. What does it mean? What was the example of not appropriate information? Let's assume that we would like to store the information about the revision history. Who changed that source code, when, what was the change, and etc. We have this information. All this information we have in our source control system, and we don't have to track it separately, because this is kind of redundant information. When we see something like that, we can, I truly believe that we can only remove it. And we can do exactly the same with obsolete comment and poorly written comment. But in this case, we have additional option. We can just rewrite it, put there really proper value, really valuable information. What about environment? We have to remember, no matter how complicated is our build, how many tests we have, let's try to have only one place, only one button, which we can press and just start the build. After that, start our test, and maybe after that, deploy to the production when we are really sure that our product is valuable and we did not lose any feature. About general nodes, I would like to focus your attention for two things, mainly. About consistency, which is true in all parts of our daily work. We can be consistent on our architecture, design, in our naming conventions, etc., etc. So everybody what we are doing, the consistent way, will help us to just limit the context switching and to do it more efficiently. And the second one, very important items, is override safeties. Why? I saw a project in my life in which guys had that kind of problem that there was time pressure, as usually, and 1 week before the end of the release cycle, they had to change the API. They did that, but they did not have enough time to change the old test. So what they did, they like ignore it, or if they have some problem with compilation, just commented it out. And after the next release, they commented it out next part of code and next and next and next. So at the end of the day, then they really don't know what they have on the production. And we are talking about tests, so this is the last section. And here two very, very important points. We should somehow validate that our tests are sufficient. And how to achieve that? We can probably we have to do code review. It have to be manual verification that we really validate our interaction with our dependencies. We really validate the return value of our models. We can use coverage tools, but this gives us only information that we go through some branches or not, but it's not give us information if this branch returns us correct value. And what is crucial, we have to have some support from the language, from the toolings that will give us that kind of information. In JavaScript, we go into that moment in the few minutes. We have that. What is interesting thing is that when we see the bug, it's very popular that somewhere in the neighborhood of this bug, we will see another one. So when we are writing the test, it's a good idea to just try to focus on the areas somewhere in the nearest neighborhood and verify that all functionality there is covered, the tests are correct, and maybe we'll be able to find another bug. So as promised, this was a very quick section. Now let's move to the Node just for the several seconds. Node is a server-side platform to write JavaScript server-side application. We don't need to put just to run our JavaScript code on the browser. We can run it on the server too. And why it's cool? Because we have non-blocking input-output model, which can be quite efficient. And this is not only for startups. Big global corporations move their solutions from the Java solution to the Node one, and they are proud about the performance. Of course, this depends on the application, but these charts are from PayPal, which did that step, and they achieve almost 2 times better performance on the Node one. How is it possible? For some kind of application in which you have really short action on the server to perform. Let's assume that you have to perform some short validation, some easy validation, and after that just build a request to the external system. And in that situation, we can try to apply it for good known from Java world, multi-threaded server platform. And in that platform, we have full of threads, and each thread can proceed with one request. So request is coming, thread is working with, so perform very quickly this operation and go to read something from the database. And what has happened? This thread is waiting. Waiting, do not proceed with any action. And when too much request is coming, at the end of the day, the pool of the thread will be empty because a lot of them will be just waiting for the resources. But how does it look in the Node.js? In Node.js, as in the browser, we have one thread. So this single thread taking the request, process it, schedule the async action to the backend, and can proceed with another request. So take another from the queue of the request, and do not spend time for the waiting for the external resources. When the request is ready, it take it and respond to the customer. And the question is, can we achieve it in the Java? Why we should move to the JavaScript? We can achieve it. For example, we can use Netty framework, which gives us async opportunity for the Java one. But in Java, it can be a bit tricky because we have to be sure that all our technologies in our technology stack in Java are really async. And for example, Spring and Jersey were not several years ago. I'm not sure if now they are, but even that, all others, we have to validate that can really use it in that kind of framework. And just to confirm, when we are using some kind of platform, we would like to install, update, maintain our features of the platform, and we have Node Package Manager, which give us a console opportunity to do all stuff which we really need. Basic, but it is. Okay, environment. I talk my talk from the back to the times when we have Internet Explorer. 2 years ago, I opened the Chrome as every day to browse the internet and try to check what I can see currently in the developers options in the daily tool. And what I saw, okay, I open one of the most popular Polish news webpage and go to the audit tab and say, wow, it's free, it's embedded to my tool, and I saw that Google have some tips what they can do with network utilization, with the performance of the application. And this is not any license, maybe not too advanced tool, but it is something to start when writing the application. But audit is the next level. When we have application ready, we can do that. But to have application ready, we have to debug it. We are talking about really big, full of features application, single page application. And to write something like that, we would like to be able to debug it. And of course, we can do it in the integrated environment, and we will go to that in a moment. But we have great support. Even in the browser, we can set up the breakpoints, step into, step over. We can see the state of the variable with the whole hierarchy of the dependencies of these objects. We can set up, we can go through the stack of the invocation and stop in each place and see exactly the same stuff. Add some watch expressions, etc. So all tools which we have in Eclipse, in IntelliJ, available, we have in our browser. For me, it's really cool. And what is more, I can link my sources to this editor, and when I don't want to redeploy the sources, I just can edit it from this place. And what is amazing, I am a fan of Eclipse and use it every day, and I don't have there the profiler, but in Chrome I have, and I can get the most important information from my perspective. So what is memory usage, how often garbage collector are running, what is the usage processor. I can export some stack traces, import it, compare the memory usage from the previous one and current one. So it's quite cool, quite advanced. And what is more, it's one more time, it's embedded to your daily tool, which is used just to browse the internet. It's everything in place. Okay, and development environment. I note only 2 tools, but we have various of options, and we can select this one, which is preferred by us. We have so many tools just with some plugins for JavaScript, and some tools dedicated to it. Item is tool to everything. It's made by GitHub. I use it for a small project at home, and I note it here only because I prepared this presentation based on it, so I have some screen from this tool. And WebStorm is full of feature. It's part of IntelliJ, only dedicated for web development, but have all what we know and what we really need from the Java world, like option to refactoring, jump from the code invocation to the source code, and etc. and etc. So it's quite advanced. What I wanted to say more in the development topic. After one of the presentation, because I had pleasure to talk about this this year in Warsaw, Szczecin, one of the guys said, "Okay, it's cool, but what is nice, the development of JavaScript, what is not nice?" Well, from that way, he came to me and say, "Okay, and what do you think about generated HTML, generated by the Java framework? Let's use GWT, Vadim, or anything like that." And I said, "Okay, it's quite cool. I still maintain one project in GWT. It's cool, but I really prefer to writing for the Java, for the web browser. I really writing code in specific language like JavaScript and debug it. I don't want to write the Java code and debug the JavaScript." And this guy said, "Okay, that's true, because currently browsers are closing the APIs, and people who are writing code in GWT, writing the code in Java, but have to debug it in the browser, and then have to debug the JavaScript code." Why? Because the API which enabled the connection from the integrated environment to the browser was closed, and there are some tricks and hacks to do it, but there are still problems with security and etc. and etc. So it's I don't want to say that the generated HTML is not a good idea, but we have to consider some consequences, maybe not positive, of this choice. And one more cool thing related to the IntelliJ, we can connect from our integrated environment to the browser and just debug and develop our scripts in the integrated environment and just show the result immediately in the Chrome. Just link it in using some Atlassian plugin. Okay, I'm a guy who always made the typos. So this is why I preferred always languages like Java, just to compile me immediately and give me quick feedback. What is wrong? Do I really write the good code, or maybe I had some typos? And I currently have great support to give me that kind of information. I can enable JSHint, JSLint, or any other linter, which will validate my code and give me warnings if my variable is not declared, or maybe what is crucial when we are talking about that code, if my code is really used, or maybe it is not. So I have great support and very simple configuration to achieve fine feedback about. And it can be integrated with many tools, of course, with IntelliJ too. This is slide, this is screen from Atom. What about test support? When we are using JavaScript, we have to every day make some decisions. Decisions about which environment we would like to choose and which framework we would like to choose. And same is about tests. We have so many frameworks to test our platform, to test our application. And we have to select this one, which is the most proper for us. And for example, we can select the libraries which are developed and released every day, have every day, every night, have really fancy functionality. And on this one side, on the other side, we have selected very major project which are, and which will be maintained. For example, QUnit, which was part of the jQuery, one of the most popular library all over the world, and it was separated, and now it is available only as a test framework. I like it, especially because it is stable, and probably it will be in the future. As my product, I will have to maintain it in the future too. The second framework, which I would like to present some examples from it, is Require.js, because, sorry, not Require.js, but Jasmine.js. So I selected that one because it has great integration with exactly Require.js, which I had some additional example at the end. So let's start from some simple functions. These functions do not nothing special, just return the sum of the parameters and perform some additional validation if the parameter is a number or not. And this is how the test looks like. It's similar to JUnit. The semantics is similar to JUnit. We have some set of standard methods to equal, to not equal, to verify equals or not equals, and of course we can take some common code to the before each and after each part, and we can validate that functions will throw something or not. This is the this is Jasmine.js, which has a bit different syntax, rather focus on the behavior-driven development, but give the same functionality. When we are talking, why I like this? Because I can create here sentences like something to be or not to be, which is commonly known sentence too. When we are talking about big application, we have to consider the mock possibilities. Why? Because we don't have to create the real functions, real hierarchy objects every time when we would like to test something. So mocks are crucial, and of course we have it. For QUnit, we have to take additional library called Sinon, and we can create some stubs, verify that some function, some object was code once, twice, and etc. and etc. And of course, says, okay, these functions will return this kind of values. And standard functions, which we know from other languages, very similar syntax, maybe not syntax, but different syntax, the same possibilities from Jasmine.js. Jasmine.js has embedded mock possibilities, so we don't have to take anything else. What is great in the mocking objects is that we don't need to now start the real server to just run our test. When we would like to test some interaction with the server, we can just mock the infrastructure layer, which is responsible for connectivity, mock it, and just say what is our expected result. We can simulate errors, we have valuable timers, so we can verify the timeouts of our application too. When we have the test ready, we would like to start it somehow, and that we have in JavaScript world two options. We can run it in the headless solution, one of many valuable, or we can run it in the real browser. And Karma gives us opportunity to run tests in both of them, but I would like to present my preferred one. I would like to start and run my test on the real browser. Why? Because unfortunately, I have to support Internet Explorer in the older version, and in that cases, I don't want to know all possible compatibility matrix know and have it in my head. I just would like to use the JavaScript, write it, and verify that in all browsers I will have the same output. So I can run it, I can run on selected browser by me, and I will get immediately information what is wrong, what is not. And I don't have to spend 3 weeks to configure that environment. It's very simple config. It's just one command, karma init, which generate it. I will have to just answer for 5 questions, select source localization, test localization, and the list of the browser which I would like to use, and that's all. So very simple to start. But we don't have to use Karma. We can run our test just in the browser. We can create HTML file, attach all this, our sources, tests, and frameworks to this HTML, run in the browser, and we will see in case of QInit this kind of report. Maybe not so beautiful, but it gives us all information which we are. Oh, 1, 2, okay. So, yep, the browser and the QInit. But this is the web. This is the web. On the web, we love styles, we love colors. So, QInit give us opportunity to just select another terms. They deliver several of them. We just need to change the CSS, and we'll see the report in the colors which we prefer. But why we can use Karma, what is a good idea? We can use their coverage plugin. Coverage plugin, which in default configuration, they generate this kind of standard report in the HTML structure. This is not so beautiful, but it gives us information, this information which we are really needed. And what is cool? We can try to add there any other reporter, and at the end integrate it with the Sonar and see the result in the tool which we know good from the Java world. And I said that, okay, so we have a choice. We can use real browser, we can use headless solution, and Phantom.js is one of these solutions which give us other opportunity. This is based on the WebKit. And we can run the test using it, but not only. We can use Phantom.js and their web module to just browse the internet, or create some scripts. We can create some screenshot using the module in this platform, but we have the access to the access to the file system too. So it's quite nice to play with it, just to have some more fun. And it was the first part about tooling, and the second part is about modules. We'll start from the this one. Yep. From the basic application. This is one of the most popular application structure, which is available in the example in the red when we are talking some example from the web project, from the JavaScript project. But start from the main directory. There is discussion which name is better, app or src. Src we know from this is conference for the Java developers, so I believe I can say we are Java developers and we love consistency, so maybe we should use the src. Why we should change that? I prefer the app, and this is why you will see it in the next slide. But what is the main argument for me? In the Java world, we use src because we have sources, we have to compile it, and we can just run the result of this action. In the Java world, our files stored in this directory, in this module, they are ready to use, and we can just run it in the browser, in the node, and everything is okay. And same with the JS library, JS directory, JS package. Somebody calls just JS. I prefer what we will see in the next slides, the name libraries, because all other files are JS too, but libraries give you direct information. This is some external code. Okay, so basic structure, very often based on the layers of application. We have separately controllers, services, and views. And views, in view have HTML fragments, maybe some templates, etc. It's cool to have that kind because it's easy. It can give that for newcomers or present it, and everybody will know. Okay. That everybody will know where to find the proper component. It's cool to the moment in which you will have really big application with several hundreds of controllers, services, and views. In that case, when you try to modify one of them, you will probably have to scroll down, trying to find the proper one, and do the same for each directory. So one of the proposals to do it a bit better, to have better scalability, to scalable it better, is to just group it for some business value. I call it context. And for example, let's have the controllers and split this main directory to some business context like account information, maybe main, maybe some administration context, and etc. and etc. It's quite good because we will not have so many controllers in one directory, but guys from Angular proposed a bit better, I believe, solution, and they say, okay, don't try to separate it in each layer. Why? Because usually when we develop some part of the code, we develop it within the one context. So I would like to have all layers evaluable neat to themselves and just go from one file to another. And they group them by the components. So they assume that we will not have the controllers and view. We will have the account information, and this directory will see controllers, services, and all HTML fragments and templates which we really needed. And what is more, they split our application structure to the two main parts. First is components, our final components which we really deliver to our customers, and the second part is shared modules. So small items which we can share which we can embed it to the components. It will not be part of our main components. It will be just modules to embed it somewhere else. And on the level of application, we have assets with the libraries, images, and some styles. The question is how we can deal with the dependency injection, with the big application, what we can do to make it really fast and to easily download it from the server to the browser. And let's assume that we have main application, which is quite big, and we have some required part and some optional, for example, some administration menu, which we don't want to download every time, only if user press some additional button, and it will have some reporting optional 2 module, and each of them has the whole big dependency hierarchy, and this is why we don't want to take everything at the beginning. Is it really hard to do currently in the JavaScript? No, we just have to, when we are of course using required.js or another AMD solution, we just have to separate it to the model, call the, let's call it entry point to it, and what will be done? Required.js will just download for us at the beginning of the application, will download the require part. When we call the optional dependency, it will be downloaded asynchronously and in async way, and we will be notified in some callback functions where it will be ready. Is it very hard to implement? No. We just create the build properties in which we have to specify what kind of modules we would like to have. What is cool, we don't have to track the whole hierarchy of our dependencies. We will just need to specify where we would like to start, and required.js will track the whole dependency tree and minimize, uglify all these files to the one point, and put it to the name, to the module named from the name properties. So in my scenario, I would like to have 3 modules, required, optional, and optional 2. I need to add some tag, additional script tag to my HTML file, and note, of course, that I would like to use required.js, specify my main application. In the main application, I need to say, okay, I want to use required.js, and these callback functions will be run when this library, when this module will be downloaded, and all their dependencies will be downloaded too. And when I would like to use some optional module, for example, after some click, I can use require functions to download it, and one more time, this callback functions will be called when everything will be ready. So it's almost for free, and what is crucial, we don't have to track the dependency of our modules manually. It is for free. We just have to, we can just add additional functionality, but the build setup will be exactly the same. And of course, required.js and AMD is not only one opportunity. We have common.js with Browsify, and you can prefer, you can use that way. Yesterday, on this conference, there was idea to use completely different framework. So you have set of opportunities and just select preferred by you and by your team. I use required.js, and it seems to be really cool. Design patterns. This section partially is based on the book written by IDEs. I would like to really encourage you to see this book. This is, of course, you have one more time, you have a choice. You can buy on the Manning this book. On the other hand, you can download from IDEs web page. There is some draft available, so you can download this one. When we are writing a big application, we have to consider some conflict. Why? Because we very often put some object to the global scope, the global window object, and we are on the web. We very often cooperate with other libraries, so we don't have to break any other provider and don't want that any others break us. So what we can do, we can create some namespaces, as in the Java world, to be sure that our names will be unique. And if we would like to be really sure, it's good case to create object within the object within the objects to really be unique. And as with all other aspects, we have a choice to how we would like to make sure that our plugins, our modules are unique. And in the first line, you will just declare the my app and verify if my app already exists, then take it. If not, we can create new object. And in the second example, second picture, you have 3 other options, no matter which one you will select. But the most important thing is to be consistent in your application within your team. What's important in the JavaScript or in the require.js world, that require.js give us some shortcuts. And in case of the namespace, we don't have maybe. It was just a small break. Okay, in the require.js world, we don't have to take care about namespaces. Why? Because require.js will create all objects within its own namespace, and we will not have a collision with anybody. So we don't have to worry about the namespaces, about the creation of the object. What about encapsulation? In all It is working, several seconds, minutes. Maybe I would turn it off. Maybe there is a problem with battery. Okay. Sorry for that, but it is technical problem. Okay, encapsulation. We are using encapsulation in all languages, and it's cool to do not share all your private functions or your private state with everybody who are using your API. And in JavaScript, in just pure JavaScript, not just using any frameworks, etc., we can use exactly the same. We can do some tricks, and one more time, we have certain choices. This is why I would like to really redirect you to this book, because there you have so many examples. I just take some of them. Let's assume that we would like to hide some take our private scope, private part of our class, our object, and we'll return another cloud with only public API. And of course, from this public API, from the embedded cloud, we have the access to the parent one, but customer will not see the functions embedded in the base node. So this is quite cool. We can hide something, but another option to do that is just declare something. We don't need to return another object, another object. Sometimes, why this is not? Some people say, okay, we have to split our functions to private. We have some part of the code which take only public method and put all our private one somewhere in the top, probably top of the functions. So what we can do, and of course, clean code said that invocation of the private function should be directly under the usage of the first unit. So to do that, we can just declare some method on this reference, and that way we'll say, okay, everything what is on this, declare on this, it will be public because this will be returned, and what is not in this, it will be private. For me, it's tricky, especially if you are writing end-to-end solution from the Java to the web, because this is something different than the Java. So when you are reading this code and just 5 minutes ago you are writing the Java and jumping to the Java world and write and see this the public method, it's not so clear. It's so clear what is going on. So I prefer to return the new object, but it's allowed to just give you exactly the same opportunity from the previous one. And what will require JS? In require.js, you have exactly the same opportunity. As you can see, this example is exactly what we saw in the first encapsulation case. We return new object. But when using require.js, we have to remember that it will initialize the model only one time. So when we return the object here, this object, this one single object, will be injected to all other modules which will require this. So we'll not have opportunity to create it on our own, returning the object. So to do that, to be able to create as many objects as we would like to, we have to return the function. So we can declare within the module, the function in our module, we have to declare the function. With it, we can select the design pattern which we prefer to declare, to implement encapsulation, and just return this function. And the customer of this module will just call new with some parameters and call this function, this function constructor. Okay, in almost all projects I saw in my life, there was this sad moment when we had to implement Sabre. And in JavaScript, probably I said one time we'll achieve that moment. To do that, we don't need a framework, we just need free.
Thank you.
We will need just three closures. The main closure will return the object with getInstance method. This method will verify that initiated variable declared within this scope is already defined or not. If it's not, then call the other function, no matter about name. This is currently called init, but you can call it as your singleton. It will call this method and return the result of it. And this part, which is part of init method, this is really this part of the code we would like to protect by singleton pattern. And there, one more time, you can implement the encapsulation, which you prefer. What is clue? In this case, you cannot use the name method. You have to use the immediately invoke function, which you can assign to any variable. So nobody else will be able to call the functions. It will be just one object created. In this case, which is not so cool in the global scope, and it will be existing only one. And when you are using, as I said before, when you are using the require.js and return the object, it will be, this model will be called, this model will be created only one time, and each references will get the same object. But we can use inheritance in our JavaScript too. And one more time, we don't need frameworks. We just, let's assume that we have person who would like to implement the superhero. What we have to do? The first thing, like in Java, in the constructor functions, we have to call our parent with all needed parameters. And the second case is, the second needed thing is that we have to create the prototype of the superhero based on prototype of the parent. And here's the trick. The best option is to use the object create because it will create for us really is a relation between this object. Some people, I saw that cases, that mistakes, that people just assign that superhero prototype is a person prototype. What is the problem with that? When we will modify the superhero prototype, for example, add their function that our Superman will be able to fly, then the person will have the same opportunity. So this is not what we would like to achieve. The another option is to create the superhero prototype based on just by invoke the person constructor, but in that case we'll have to invoke it without parameters, maybe with just fake parameters, so this is not good options too. So this is why I encourage you to just use object create or create similar functions if you cannot use ECMA 5, because this function was introduced in that version. And the last design pattern is factory. And here we can, one more time, play with prototype. In this case, we would like to create the vehicle factory. And to do that, I declared some method get vehicle and some vehicle class. In the first example, I would like to create the car object, and to do that, I create new instance of the vehicle factory, assign it to the car factory. I can create with some parameters, but in the case when we would like to create another one, so I used this second scenario, which I said before. I create new functions, create its prototype based on the parent prototype, not using the object hierarchy. In this case, this is not, I don't have to worry about calling empty constructor, because I know that it do not anything, every functions are declared on the factory level, on the prototype level. So I call it, I assign new class, which I would like to create, and just when I create this truck instance of the truck factory, I will be able to create a truck object. Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you for your time, attention. Do you have any question to me? From the left to the right? No questions, so one more time. Thank you for your time, for attention.